Hello, friends. Welcome into Pack-A-Day Happy Hour. Of course, I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Thanks so much for being here. We've got a lot to talk about. We've got Packers 49ers coming up. We just had a monster report from Matt Schneidman that Jaire Alexander has a partially torn PCL that he aggravated against Chicago. Key piece there being that he aggravated against Chicago. It's not a great look when you're questioning as to whether or not he should play or not, and then he plays and then he aggravates it. Like, that's very far from ideal. Jaire apparently, per that article, said he's confident he's going to be able to come back and play at some point this season, but it would certainly seem as if he is at minimum going to be out for this week and probably for a little while yet. We also had some bad news today that Edgerrin Cooper with a hamstring injury is now not practicing. I had some fears about this, and I think I talked about this a little bit. I don't know if it was the live show. I don't know. I do too many of these things. I don't remember where I say what things, but when Matt LaFleur at the end of his list, he's like, oh yeah, also Edgerrin Cooper was limited. And it's like, oh, there's something that probably happened at the end of that practice that he's adding that on. And then when I saw it as a hamstring on the injury report, I'm like, oh, here we freaking go. Because even these things, even if it's a minor one, they're still nagging, right? So he is very much, I think, probably in doubt for this weekend as well. It's not the weekend against San Fran where you want Jaire Alexander and Edgerrin Cooper, missing from this defense. And obviously the Jaire situation seems a bit more serious, but just when you think you're, again, getting a little bit more in the clear from an injury standpoint, got to love the injury gods being like, no, not so fast. You're going full Dikembe Mutombo on you and just saying, rejecting that idea right out of the ether. And we're right back where we, were with more injuries, right? And I still think Green Bay overall, if you were to say, hey, listen, you're basically at this point in the season, three guys, three real significant players, and Luke Musgrave, I guess you could probably put to some lesser extent Marshawn Lloyd in that as well. But Musgrave, Lloyd, Cooper, and Jaire, you're still talking about four players in totality, which isn't the worst thing in the world, right? There are teams that are far more beat up than that, but it's four pretty significant players at the end of the day, especially Jaire, and then what Musgrave and Cooper can give you from a speed standpoint on both sides of the ball. And then just Marshawn Lloyd for depth too. Again, it's far from ideal. Jordan Morgan, I guess, actually, by the way, too, that's another one. So you kind of got five guys, but it's not the worst case scenario, but it's certainly not ideal right now with all the injuries. Richard missed your Pack-A-Day live show yesterday, and we'll obviously go through as many questions as we can possibly get to. Super chats always go to the top of the list. Get to some member questions as always. Probably have about 45, 50 minutes from now before I have to get out of here. But, well, like I said, we'll get to as many questions as we have. We'll start with Richard. Mr. Pack-A-Day live show yesterday, was watching today, and you mentioned how LVN is a misevaluation so far. How is he a misevaluation if Motrax and others thought he was a top 15 pick? Well, first of all, just because there's a consensus on a player doesn't necessarily mean that it ends up being right, correct? You can have a player at the time that come the draft cycle was a consensus top 15, top 20 pick in the draft, which LVN was. If Green Bay didn't take him where they took him, I don't think he lasted a couple more picks. I think New England was probably going to take him, right? And I think there would have been other teams that gladly would have taken him if Green Bay passed. He was going to be at minimum, and I mean at minimum, at worst case scenario, a top 20 pick in that draft. I don't think there's any question about that. That doesn't mean that teams and evaluators don't get it right. And it doesn't mean that teams didn't know that he was going to be a bit of a project player, that this was going to be a little bit more of an upside play, that he'd be able to come in and help you down the line. It wasn't necessarily going to be something right away. Now that could still happen. We're a year and a half into the LVN experience. And despite, again, I think some real struggles as a pass rusher, I think that goes without saying, right? I don't have this brutal grade on him. PFF does. PFF does have a brutal grade on him. I think he might be the lowest graded player on the team, if I remember correctly, for PFF. Let's see. By team, Green Bay defense. He is the lowest graded player on the team per PFF. So he's at a 43.8, just a tick below TJ Slayton at 43.9 and Quay Walker at 49.5 and Kenny Clark at 49.6 and Eric Stokes at 51.5. And then we can go on and on. But yeah, he's there for them. I don't have him quite that low, but either way, let's just be clear. He has not played up to expectations. And the bigger issue is not necessarily that, but there's really not been this sign of, oh, yep, he's ready to break out any moment. There's no sign of that. There's no sign of real progress with LVN at this point. So it's a misevaluation in any time that, quite frankly, you take a player in the top 20 and they don't turn out for you. So at this point, it's leaning in that direction. I'm not there yet. It's still very early. A lot of time left for LVN still in that rookie contract, but you're looking for signs of growth or signs of like, all right, it's coming along for LVN. We just haven't seen that. So even if he was a consensus top 20 pick, it doesn't mean that it's not a misevaluation. It's just that there was a lot of people that missed on him. And it just hasn't worked out to this point. And again, the long way to go with LVN. Could have an unbelievable year next year, and it ends up being much ado about nothing. Could have a very similar trajectory to Rashawn Gary still. It ends up being much ado about nothing. But right now, it is not gone according to plan so far. Is he still owe a good amount from the other day, Andy? Be prepared. Well, that's very kind of you, and I will definitely be prepared, Izzy, but you have done a ton already, so I appreciate you a ton. And just thanks so much for being here, my friend. What's up, Andy? I'm excited for the revenge game against the 49ers. I'm excited about this one. I mean, I'm excited about good football, and this should be good football. And these are two teams that I think aren't living up to quite up to their expectations, right? I'm not saying the Packers are certainly in a bad spot at 7-3 or anything like that, but I think they and Matt LaFleur would be the first to tell you that they haven't come close to where they want to be as a team. In San Francisco, clearly not, right? They're 5-5, still have a long way to go. So I think these are two teams that can gain a lot of momentum from this game. If Green Bay wins, it's going to be one of even though they would move San Francisco to 5-6, I think it would be one of their more signature wins on the season. And getting that revenge game, getting a win over Kyle Shanahan, for Matt LaFleur, I think it'd be a big win for them. And it basically makes them like a 94% chance to make the playoffs, at least per the prediction models, right? That's a huge win. And I think that really, again, especially if they could get like a signature win, meaning like they could win this in a significant way. And they don't need to do that, but I'm saying if they could, like, man, would that feel great for Green Bay? San Fran, they get a win against Green Bay in Green Bay, get to 6-5, get right back in the playoff picture, just a game behind Green Bay in that wild card. And right there from a, NFC West standpoint, I think they start feeling a lot better. I think the loser starts feeling like, Green Bay now 7-4 and coming off a loss to the 49ers, that playoff gap is tightened by a game. You have a lot of tiebreakers that are lost with teams in the NFC and in the NFC North up until this point. You still have tough games on the schedule against Minnesota and Detroit, amongst others. So this doesn't feel great if you're Green Bay, if they lose. In San Francisco, if they lose, like it might just be done for them this season. There's already a lot of angst and anxiety and frustration in San Fran with Shanahan, with Brock Purdy, and in the entire operation. So that could go in a very negative direction. It's a huge game. I think it's a season-changing game in the NFC, and how like the rest of this playoff race and some of these things play out. I think this one's going to be a pretty big Shatterpoint game in the rest of the NFC season. So I can't wait for this one. I'm excited. And hopefully, to your point, Matt, Green Bay can, in fact, get that revenge game. Tim T, do you think the NFL should move the field goal post back 5 to 10 yards? Seems like field goal range is getting a little ridiculous. No, not at all. In fact, I think we're seeing more randomness. Some of your best kickers in the league right now are having a really tough time with field goal kicking. And I think right now, more than ever, it is really making it so that there's a haves and a have-nots when it comes to a kicking standpoint, and it can alter the course of the game. And if you have a Brandon Aubrey, and they're sort of wasting it right now in Dallas, but that can just kick 58 yarders, 60 yarders, whatever it might be, and at any given time, that's a massive weapon to have. But like, kudos to them for having that weapon. And if you're some of these other teams that just can't make a field goal right now, like Baltimore basically lost a game because Justin Tucker can't make field goals right now. Like, that is a huge disadvantage. So no, I have no issue with it. And quite frankly, I think while I'm not a big like field goals are exciting guy, like some of these 58, 60, 65 yarders, like it's a little bit more impressive. I'm like, this is kind of cool. Let's see if they can actually make it or not. And also, like, there is still a big risk when you're attempting those. It's great that Brandon Aubrey's been making them, right? But if you miss, the other team's like immediately in field goal range. So I like it. I wouldn't change anything with it. I think it would look really silly. Plus you get to a real big logistical issue, right? Because 5-10 yards behind that, right, is you start to get to seating pretty quick. So like a lot of stadiums can't really support that, and it would just look really weird and wonky. So no, I wouldn't change anything with it. I like it, and have no problem with it whatsoever. Izzy gifted 50 Pack-A-Day memberships. That is awesome, my friend. I'm glad to see that pretty much a lot of, probably half the people in here, and probably more than that who weren't members already, just got a membership. So Izzy, thank you so much. You're the absolute best. I appreciate all of your support. It means the world. And yeah, you're unbelievable. Hopefully you can enjoy a Packers victory this weekend. And hopefully sometime you're in Green Bay, let me know and we'll have to go and get a drink together or something. But Izzy, appreciate you a ton. Aiden, how do you feel about Jaire? I'm on his good side. You meaning like just how he is as a player, like, where I'm at with him from a playing standpoint? I think Jaire is the best corner on the team, best cover corner on the team. I don't think there's anything close. I think they very much need him on this team. I think he's a huge part of it. I think in order to run some of the stuff that Jeff Hafley wants to run and be successful with it, they really need him. I think going against guys like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Amon-Ra St. Brown, having him out there is unbelievably massive. I think there is definitely a point to the lame cliche, the best ability is availability. Listen, Green Bay moved on from Aaron Jones because there was an inkling of a thought that he was reaching a point where he wasn't going to be able to play as many games anymore. He was obviously a little bit banged up last year, but he didn't miss like a ton, right? He missed a decent amount of games, but it was kind of like the first time, right? But the thought was, we're going to see more of this from Aaron Jones. He may not be available as much. You've seen it for 4 years now out of Jaire, where he can't stay healthy. And there's plenty of evidence now to say like, hey, he just can't hold up any longer for 16 games in the league, or even probably like 10, 12 games in the league. So they have an out in his contract next year. It's an exorbitant salary cap hit. I can bring it up right now. I know the gist of it, but I'll just make sure I have all the I's dotted and T's crossed. You would have an $18 million dead cap hit next year, but you would save $7 million in salary cap space. So you would pay, your question is, do you want to pay $25 million and have Jaire, or do you want to pay just $18 million and not pay Jaire and save $7 million? And I think it's still a conversation to have, but you also have to remember then, it may just sound like a $7 million difference, but then if you cut him the next year, then you pay $10 million to cut him the next year. So it's really like a $17 million decision. So what you're kind of deciding next year is, if Jaire Alexander were a free agent, would you sign him to a 1-year, $17 million deal? Would you do that? If he only plays 8 games, is he worth over $2 million per year, or per game on the year? I would argue probably not. So do you want to take that $17 million, the 1-year $17 million, and go out and sign a different corner? Do you want to use it for a long-term contract for a different corner? Do you want to use it elsewhere? Do you want to use a first-round pick on a corner and, again, utilize that financial resources in a different position? Those are all questions that they're going to have to ask, but they're going to have to make that determination. But as of right now, I'm certainly hoping that he can get back sooner rather than later. He's a very good cover corner, but there are deficiencies in his game when it comes to A, staying healthy, and B, just his tenacity as a defender. Ever since that shoulder injury, you used to see a very aggressive Jaire, the play where he chucks the Minnesota Viking into, I think it was Justin Jefferson, into the backfield. And like, you saw a lot more plays like that previously. You don't really see that from Jaire anymore. Kind of shies away from contact. And understandably so, because he can't stay healthy when he has contact, right? So that's where I'm at. I think they have a very big decision to make in this offseason. But for now, hopefully he can get back and play really well sooner rather than later. But we're going to have to kind of wait and see to see how that all plays out. All right, Chicken's in here. Andy, what's the biggest plus or minus you've given to a player after a single game? I'd have to go back and look at that, Chicken. I don't know that I know that off the top of my head. Also, like earlier on, the swings were a little bit deeper. I made some changes kind of over the years. But yeah, early on, I think this is probably going to win for the most. And again, it was different back in the day. It was a little bit more like in 2017, 2018, especially 2017, it was a little bit more aggressive. But Justin McCray in week 6 of 2017 had a negative 7.8 grade. And again, you wouldn't see that anymore because it's much more toned down now. It's a little bit tighter now than what it was. But that's probably probably the worst numerical grade that I ever gave. Let's just go over it in the last, probably since 2019, it's been a lot more similar. A negative 3.6 for Alex Light in week 12 of 2019. That's still winning. 2020, nothing beats that. Okay, here's a negative 4.2 grade for Kevin King in the NFC Championship game against the Buccaneers. So negative 4.2 for Kevin King. And you can imagine the Hail Mary at the end had a big chunk of that to do with it. I don't know if that's going to get beat. So Alex Light on offense and Kevin King on defense are winning so far. A negative 3.3 grade for Elton Jenkins in week 6 of 2022. I think that was when he was coming off the torn ACL and had some really bad games at right tackle. It was. Let's see, what else do we got here? Seeing if anything else fits the criteria. We'll go over positives too in just a moment. A negative 2.65 grade for Darnell Savage in the game, the championship game or the divisional round game against the 49ers last year. And nothing I don't think is going to fit the criteria this year so far. No, nothing egregious. All right, on from a positive side, we have a plus 3.80 for Aaron in week 6 of 2019. A plus 3.2 for Zadarius Smith in week 16 of 2019. Plus 5.7 for Aaron Rodgers in week 1 of 2020. Plus 3.5 for Aaron in week 3 of 2020. A plus 3.3 for Devontae Adams in week 16 of 2020. Let's see. What else do we have here? Plus 3.3 for Aaron in week 14 of 2021. Plus 3.1 in week 16 for Aaron in week 16 of 2021. Sorry, I'll finish this up here in a second. Just seeing if anything else stands out. Plus 3.80 for Jordan Love against the Cowboys last year in the playoffs. So plus 3.8. It's been my highest in a while. Yeah, and then a plus 3 grade for Jordan Love in week 6 this season. Is that against, who's week 6 against? I'm drawing a blank. Sorry, I know me looking stuff up isn't always the most entertaining stuff in the world, but week 6 was against the Cardinals. So plus 3.0 week 6 against the Cardinals. But so more recently, Aaron's game against the Cowboys, and then some bad games for Alex Light. And who was the other one that had a really bad game? I don't know. I already forgot. All right, we're moving on. Let's see. Jaire out, I think, for the season. I hope not. Hope not. Packers Kingdom. He aggravated toward the. He had a slightly torn PCL and aggravated it. Yep, we went through that. And he did say he thinks he can be back though. So we're gonna see. Why does Jaire get hurt every game? He has missed nearly half the games in his career. Don't know. Wish I knew. Definitely been a little injury prone. Andy, what would you know? With what you know now, do you trade for Lattimore at the deadline? Probably not. Probably not. I definitely probably try to make a little bit more of a move there at the corner position, knowing the Jaire injury. But Lattimore's had a lot of injuries as well. And now you're giving up a lot of draft capital for a player that has a lot of injuries. I don't know that I probably would have done that one, but I definitely would have shopped around probably a little bit more for a corner. I like if I'm them, I at least bring in like a Xavier Howard for a workout just to see if there's anything left in the tank there. But yeah, I think they're going to have to figure something out if Jaire cannot come back at some point this season. Jaire to IR, shut him down for 4 weeks and bring up Haddon or King. Haddon already has 2 practice squad call-ups, so that would make some sense. I don't know if they need to because they did bring up Robert Rochelle right to the 53. So I don't know that they would need to bring up a corner specifically. I don't know that that's going to I don't think either of those guys really change the calculus for you at all either. Your hope is that they never see the field. Your hope is that they're special teams guys only. So it doesn't change anything. That's where I said, well, at least bring in like a Xavier Howard for a workout just to see if there's anything left in the tank. Probably not, but I'd at least give it a shot. Yeah, it's going to be tough if they have to go, for the remainder of the season without Jaire. If they can get him back for the playoffs, I'm less concerned. End of the year, but obviously games against the 49ers, Vikings, Lions, those become a lot harder when you don't have your best corner out there. All right. I got some more super chats from Todd. Seems like we are all dumbfounded with no cornerback selection in last draft till the 7th. With Jaire injury history and only questions behind him, how did they not use one of the many 3rd, 4th, 5th picks that we had? I don't know. I wish I'd answered. There's some really good corners like all throughout the draft too. And some of them that have turned out really, really good so far. Let's see, 2024 NFL draft. So like, for example, obviously, we can go round 1 when, Jordan Morgan's there. I know a lot of people want to, immediately go to Philly, of course, and the guy that everyone wanted, whose name is immediately escaping me for whatever reason. Why can't I freaking remember his name? Where's the Eagles draft pick? Cooper DeJean. And then you also had the Texans corner, Kamari Lassiter, who's been off to a good start. Max Melton for the Cardinals has been playing much better lately. Now he went before Cooper, so I don't think you were ever going to take Melton in the first round. Mike Sainristil for the Commanders has looked really good. Now, again, do you want to give up Edgerrin Cooper for him? Probably not, right? Ennis Rakestraw has not done anything. Renardo Green for San Fran has had a really good season. Now, again, you could have had him instead of Javon Bullard, but Bullard's been a good player for them. You can understand that a little bit more. But he's been really good for San Francisco, and you're going to see him this week. And then where was Jerry Jones taken? Because that's the other one. Jerry Jones was taken at 96. Green Bay took Hopper at 91. That's the one that kills. That's the one that really kills, because Jerry Jones, he's the one that had the pick for Jacksonville against Green Bay. I don't know what his PFF grade is, or I don't even know how much it matters, but so it's a 63.8. He's had 2 back-to-back not so great games against Minnesota and Detroit, but still a 63.8. He's been really good in run defense, good tackling, solid in coverage. He's given up 27 completions on 36 attempts for 75% completion percentage and 310 yards, but no touchdowns, 1 interception against Green Bay, 3 pass breakups, only 1 penalty, and an 88.9 quarterback rating. Like, that would have been the really, really nice one there, I think, just to have him instead of instead of Tyron Hopper right now. I mean, sign me the hell up for that. But it does seem weird that they just ignored it completely. And really, even in the 7th round, like that's a early undrafted free agent pickup, right? And so much so that they cut him and put him on the practice squad. So they really didn't address it at all, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. Ralph, thank you for the super chat. In life, we have to look at ourselves sometimes. I think the Packers must do the same when it comes to defense. We have gotten pushed around for the last 14 years. Start drafting football players. I mean, I think to some extent they have, right? I think Javon Bullard's a great example of a football player. I think Evan Williams is a great example of a football player. Xavier McKinney, going and getting him, he's a football player. I would argue Carrington Valentine's a football player. Actually, I would say Tyron Hopper, definitely a football player. Edgerrin Cooper, probably a little bit more on that athletic side, but he's a football player too. I would argue very much in that vein. Rashawn Gary, there's no argument there. Like, that dude's a football player. He gives us everything. It hasn't always worked out, especially as of late, but that dude's a football player. Kenny Clark's a football player. Like, I can understand like the Quay Walker sentiment, right? Like, there's a couple of those that you could make the argument for. Eric Stokes. So there's a couple of those there, but I think for the most part, there's a lot of football players on this team, and it's not working. I think, to me, this has less to do about the process, or like, at the end of the day, it sounds silly. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds oversimplified. You just got to find good football players. They come in all different shapes and sizes. It's not always a height, weight, speed thing. It's not always an athleticism thing. It's not always an instincts thing. Sometimes you can grab really great instinctual players and they just can't cut it athletically. Like, so if there were a perfect solution, 1A, like you could just do this every time and it's going to work, every team would be doing it. It's hard. They just have to do a better job in their evaluation and finding some better players that can help this team defensively. And I do think this has been a better defense in 2024 than it was in 2023. It's still early in the Jeff Hafley era. I still think there's things that they can do to be better, but you got to start winning some of those one-on-ones up front. And until you do that, it's going to be very difficult for Jeff Hafley to really call anything that's going to work when you just can't get there with 4 guys. Nicholas, if you could super boost the level of play for CV at corner or LVN at pass rush, which would you choose? Probably LVN. I'll take the upside and the super boost of LVN. This team needs pass rush. A better pass rush will make everything else better. It's going to make your linebackers look better in coverage. It's going to make your corners look better in coverage. It's going to give Xavier McKinney more opportunities at interceptions. Boost everything. So I would take a Devontae Wyatt super boost, a LVN super boost, a Rashawn Gary super boost. I'd take any of those guys playing at a high level at this point. The pass rush needs all the help it can get. Those guys all need to start playing a little bit better. All right. Have any players pushed back against your grading at all in the DMs or given you positive feedback? I've not gotten any negative feedback or any pushback in the DMs. I did get a DM from a player once on an article that I wrote of like how they should be utilized different, and them thanking me for it and being like, "You're totally right. I wish I was utilized this way. Thank you for writing this." That happened once. That was a while back. That was probably 5 years ago-ish. Other than that, no. I have had some players come up and give me some fist bumps along the sidelines and things like that. Like the weird things is like, I never really expect anybody to know who I am from a Packer standpoint. And for any Packer that would ever listen to me, I would say, don't. There's no reason to listen to me if you're a Green Bay Packer. Listen to your coaches, listen to what's inside the building. what are you going to gain from me? And in sincerity, like what all of us, here's a peek behind the window, right? I think everyone likes to give off this aura of, we all know everything that we're talking about at all times. I don't know everything that I'm talking about. I'll just be totally real and honest and transparent with you. I don't have the answers to everything. I don't know everything perfectly. So I tell you all the times, you have to take even the grades that I give with a grain of salt, because I'm doing it to the very best of my ability and assigning a grade for every player. And I'm extremely proud of how I go through that meticulously. And I take great pride in what I do. But we are all doing it with what we have available to us. What the Packers have inside their building and how they see these players every single day and in practice and in interacting with them and going through tape study with them and all of these different things, that's where it's at. Like that's like, we're just trying to glean as much as we possibly can. And I take painstaking detail into watching every player and every play and looking at all the details and all the minutia and listening to all the press conferences and gathering as much information as I can so I can make as much of an educated comment on everything that I'm talking about as possible. And I still can know a small percentage of what's actually going on in that building. And that's with us trying to do everything that we can to get as much information as we can. Right. So if there's a Packer player that's listening and upset with their grade or happy with their grade or even gives any F at all, I would say don't. My thought on what they are doing inside that building should not matter to anyone inside that building, sincerely. And I would hope that they would go about it listening to the coaches and the people inside that building more than anything else. That's what I would tell them, whether they love their grade, hate their grade, or anything in between. It at the end of the day is irrelevant to what they need to do to go out and be good players on the field. And the other thing that I would always say to them, whether again they're performing well, bad, ugly, and different, is, man, I am cheering for all of them. Man, I don't like the way that Quay's playing on the field. I have not liked the way that Eric Stokes plays on the field. Man, nothing would give me greater joy if those two guys just went out and balled the hell out the remainder of the season and proved me and everyone else wrong. So look, I'm going to go be a really good player in this league. Man, freaking awesome. Like, that'd be amazing. And I'd be cheering them on every step of the way. So it's a hard, thing to sort of put out there sometimes. And, I certainly put myself out there, and that's why, you'd be surprised. Like when you're going to go do any sort of tape study, man, I've seen some really bad stuff that people put out there on tape, and it's embarrassing. I won't name names. I once watched a local TV show in Green Bay, a sports show in Green Bay. And they were trying to break down tape on TV. It was like a Packers extra sort of thing that they were doing, a special that they were doing. And he would get on the board and break down tape. And he was showing how everyone in the coverages that they were at and showing everyone in man coverage. And it was the most blatantly obvious zone coverage in the world. And like, there's always going to be somebody that knows something more, a step further than you do. Mike Wall has X's and O's down better than I do. Ben Fennell, when he comes on, has some X's and O's stuff better than I do. Like Ben Solak, when I've talked to him in the past, like he has X and O stuff better than I do. So anytime I'm going out there, I have to make sure, and I put something on Twitter or social media, on YouTube, whatever, I have to make sure I dot my I's and cross my T's, because it can get destroyed very fast and be like, do you know what you're talking about? And then like, did you even watch the tape? Do you know, like, it can look really bad if you put something out there and you get, and it's wrong. So again, I try to do everything I can to put that out there and dot my I's and cross my T's. But I'll just say one more time, the first thing I would say to any Packer that's watching is, man, don't give me any credence whatsoever. Listen to what's going on inside the building. You're going to be much better off long-term. So, and again, I know there's people that like the comments, and I'm sure there's people that don't like it, but yeah, they'd be better off just, again, kind of keeping in the echo chamber that is inside 1265 and not listening to any of the outside noise, and you're just working on your craft and getting better, because all those guys are super, super talented dudes. And like I said, I'm cheering all of them on. All right, where do we leave off here? I think we got some super chats in. All right, there we go. Celestial Prophet 20. Why did they not draft a corner? We all called it after Jaw's injury last year. Hopefully CV Nixon and Ballantyne step up. I wanted Cooper DeJean. I know a lot of people wanted Cooper DeJean, and he's been really good so far. And I know Jordan Morgan hasn't been great, and he's injured right now. I still say, like, man, building those trenches is going to pay off more often than not, especially on the offensive line. You need those guys. They're hard to find. If he can be a good offensive lineman for Green Bay, that's going to be a really good pick for them. And I think he can be. I really do. So yeah, there's players I would have taken to other than Jordan Morgan in that spot. Doesn't mean anything, right? But Yeah, would have been interesting to see if they did go in a different direction. They probably should have addressed corner in a more significant way, regardless. Sometimes it doesn't fall the way that you want. The one that I really go to though, as I look at it, Jaire and Jones being there when you take Tyron Hopper and you already took an Edgerrin Cooper and you didn't take a corner yet at that point. That one to me, that one stings a little bit. And again, I don't think Jaire and Jones is going to be this like unbelievable 1A corner, right? But he would certainly help a lot more than what Tyron Hopper is doing. I can definitely say that. All right. Yo, this community is the best. I just got gifted a membership. Go Pack Go. Drew, that's awesome, man. Looks like Cooper will be out this week. Quay versus McCaffrey will be fun to watch. Quay needs a better game. There was some good stuff on tape from Quay. I really sincerely mean that. It was a little bit better than what I had thought watching the game live. Still not good. Still my second lowest graded player in the week, but I thought it was going to be a nuclear level of bad grade for Quay. I really did. I thought there was like a -3 grade in play for Quay. And it was a -0.75. It was not good, second lowest graded player, but there was actually some decent stuff from Quay on tape. So hopefully, hey, if anyone's due for a really good game, it's Quay. He's due for a good one, I guess. So maybe this will be the week. Not crossing my fingers too hard. They have a roster opening before any possible IR moves with Jaire or Cooper if the hammy is serious, so they have some flexibility. Musgrave, Morgan, or Lloyd won't need a spot for a month likely. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what they do with that spot. I don't know if they'll use it this week. If so, obviously it'll be somebody from the practice squad. They're not going to pick up somebody off the street and get them ready to go at this point in time, but I am interested to see if they do utilize that spot. They don't need to, right? If they're going to just have to, like Rochelle last week, probably didn't need to call him up. They just deactivated him anyway. They needed to do it just in case they did need him active for game day because he was out of practice squad elevations. So just in case Jaire couldn't go, they could have kept him active. That was the reason that they did that. But if you're just going to deactivate the guy anyway, you're better off keeping him off or keeping him on the practice squad and paying him less and saving some salary cap money by just doing that. It's not much, by the way, but you do save a little bit by doing it that way. I will be over again at some stage. Never fear. All right, good to hear, Izzy. Sounds like Purdy has been limited at practice. He has been, so that'll be interesting to see how healthy he is going into this game. Not torn ACL unless something changed in the last 20 minutes or so. It was a PCL for Jaire. If I remember correctly. Or I know I not remember correctly, but unless something's changed. Yeah, so no ACL, thankfully, but PCL is what it was. With your new partnership, going to have lawyers look into getting you and Ross access to all 22 rebroadcasting for analysis. I'm assuming you mean the Habish and Habish sponsorship. Yeah, I guess I could have them look at it and see that. That's a really good point, Dragon Scale. I didn't even think of that. I did not think of that whatsoever. That would be cool to just be like, hey, I don't need any sponsorship money. I just need legal advice moving forward on how to get away with some of this stuff and being able to do film work right on the channel. So that's not a bad idea, my friend. That is not a bad idea at all. I might have to look into that. Face of a man who needs to unleash some food takes. I feel like you used to be more diabolical with him. All right. I was going to save this for Thanksgiving next week. I got some for you, Ski. I was thinking of this today, actually, a little bit. I've got some food takes for you, Ski. All right. First of all, Nestle Bunch of Crunch. All right. A million times better than Nestle Crunch the candy bar. Nestle Crunch the candy bar, it's meh. It's totally meh. Nestle Bunch of Crunch, unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Butterfingers, much better than Butterfinger BBs. Butterfinger BBs are fine, but the actual Butterfinger themselves, better candy bar than little nugget or whatever they are. But man, Bunch of Crunch, just a different world than where the actual candy bar is at. Another one, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. All right. When it comes to Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, not all Reese's products are created equal. And I think one of the biggest things that the candy market gets wrong, and this is just unbelievable content, by the way, one of the biggest things the candy market gets wrong is king sizing crap. The proportions are all wrong. Now all of a sudden the chocolate to peanut butter ratio is off, or the nougat in a different candy bar is like, it's not the right ratio anymore. They're not like growing them proportionally where it's like all the same proportions of ingredients. And it's just all messed up. So if I go to a gas station and I want like a whatchamacallit and like they only have the king size, I'm out because it tastes totally different. All the proportions are wrong of it. The peanut butter cups, though, the best version of the Reese's peanut butter cup is the mini cup. It's the best one. It's got the best proportions. The regular cup is good. I have no problem with that. Any of the other ones, I'm kind of out on. I don't like the proportions of it. So the actual peanut butter cup, the small one, the little one that's got like the extra wrapper, that to me, the best version of the peanut butter cup. And then, like I said, the other one, king size candy bars, I'm totally out on. And who needs a king size? What do you do? How much candy bar do you need? I just need my regular nice size candy bar. I already feel like a piece of crap for going and like eating a full candy bar, right? Like I should not be going to the gas station. I don't need a whatchamacallit or a fast break. I shouldn't be getting it anyway. But what do you need a king size for? What are we doing? The regular one is perfectly sized. And like I go to some of these gas stations, it's all just king size. The whole row, it's all king size. I'm just like, I'm out. I can't do it. So those are my food takes for the day. That's been brought to you by my weirdo, bizarro brain. All right. Maybe they will call up Jamin Davis from the practice squad if Cooper can't go. He's a free agent at the end of the season. Would be good to see if he fits in the defense. I love that. Also, by the way, it doesn't work this way, and they probably wouldn't be able to pull it off. If I were a GM, what I would be playing hardball with, and the way that you can take advantage of some of this stuff, is the contract that I would make Jamin Davis sign would be a 1-and-1. Meaning, hey, we want to activate you to the active roster. We're going to give you an active spot the rest of the year. I would even go as far as to say, we'll guarantee you your contract the rest of the year. We're going to keep you on the 53. You have a guaranteed 53-man roster spot. You're going to pay it, but you have to sign a 1-year vet minimum next year as well. I would make it so that you sign a 1-and-1, because what the worst thing that could happen is, not the worst, but if he goes out and plays really well and all of a sudden he's just an unrestricted free agent, now all of a sudden you have to give him that big money. Like that sucks. Like I would be much more aggressive if I were a GM and saying, hey, if you want to get to our active 53-man roster, you need to sign for the rest of this year, but you also need to sign a 1-year vet minimum deal next year as well. So I would play hardball if I were the GM in that situation. And then if he said no, all right, we'll go add a linebacker from another team's practice squad. And you're not going to get that guarantee this year, and you don't know if you're going to get anything next year. So take it now, but I would do the 1-year guarantee the rest of this year, and then a vet minimum non-guaranteed next year, and make him sign that. Would be certainly my attempt, at least. Worth a shot. I love all the different cheese heads and the Andy heads. Amazing. How do you see the future of the cornerback position outside of Jaire? Do you see them spending a first-round pick on a corner or sign a corner free agency? I think anything's on the table. I think Stokes is gone. I think Jaire could be gone. I think that's within the realm of possibility now based on his consistent, inavailability. And Carrington Valentine has not proven anything yet. You're not making any decisions based on Corey Ballantyne. Keyshawn Nixon, you're going to have to make a decision on. I think he's back next year, but again, you're still not basing anything off of that. And even if he's back next year, you're probably treating it as a true 1-year deal. And then you're not making any decisions based on Kalen King, Robert Rochelle, or any, Kamal Haddon or anyone else. So you're kind of going into it where even in a very best case scenario, you're probably thinking of Jaire and Nixon as 1-year deals. Like they're only going to be on the team for 1 more year in 2025, and that's it. And that you can't base anything off of Carrington Valentine or anyone else on the roster. So you're going to have to start stocking that cupboard very, very quick. So I think you will see multiple corners drafted next year. And then if they want to go out and sign one too, they could do so. But I think at minimum, you're getting 2 corners in the draft this upcoming season, probably in the first 5 rounds would be my guess. Nemo hose. PCL injuries are more significant than ACL. Based on that, I don't expect Jaire to play the season, and most likely played his last down in Green Bay. Could be again, a full PCL could be the case. Yes, this is a partially torn PCL, again, per Matt Schneidman. I have not had the chance to research it a ton. It just came out right before I came on, and I was doing a radio show right before I came on this. So I've not had the opportunity to look into it fully, but my understanding, it was not a full torn PCL. It was a partially torn PCL. And it sounded like there was optimism that he could play again this year, at least from Jaire's standpoint. But again, either way, it's not a good scene, right? That's not what you want to hear. I think if there's a good corner available in the draft, they will go for it as long as that player is a right fit for the team. Yeah, they're going to take corners in the draft. If Jaire's season is in doubt, I would expect to have seen a move to IR maybe announced later today. Yeah, I would. I mean, they may give that time, right? Just to double check, triple check, make sure before they make any, extreme determinations on that. They're going to want to be careful. But yeah, if he's just done, then they'll put him on IR sooner rather than later. Any more of a business question? What are your goals for Pack-A-Day subscribers, members, features on other big accounts? Thanks for all you do. Love listening every day. It's just consistent growth, Nathan. It's not any one thing. It's just continue to grow day after day, gain more subscribers, gain more members, and just put out the product that is worthy of that. Jacob Westendorf always likes to say, the fans, the listeners, the viewers, the readers, they choose who gets to stay on and who has a role in this, right? And if I don't put out good content, nobody's going to show up and nobody's going to listen. So it's to make sure I'm staying on top of things. It's continuing to grow the brand. What I'm doing with the Pack-A-Day radio show, a large part of that is just getting, the Pack-A-Day brand out in the Milwaukee market even more, and more people aware of who I am, what Pack-A-Day is, and things like that. Right. So, yeah, I think to me, it's just consistent growth. And I never know what that next thing is going to be. When I started writing for Cheesehead TV, I had no clue that I would parlay that into a podcast or a TV show at the time or a radio show or anything else. When I started the podcast, I had no idea that I would parlay that into a YouTube channel. When I started a YouTube channel, I had no idea I would parlay that into, again, a daily radio show. When I, do the radio show now, I had no idea that's probably going to parlay into something else. And I don't know what that next thing is. So, different ideas will come to me at different times to do things. And when I do that, I usually run with it pretty aggressively. And who knows what that next thing is. But for now, I'm at capacity. I will tell you that. I don't have capacity for anything more. I can't write one more article. I can't do one more podcast. I can't do one more radio show. I don't have, I'm running out of hours in the day. I'm running out of seconds in the day. I'll put it that way. So I don't have much more time, but what the next evolution is, what the next, big thing is, or if there is a big thing, I don't know, but it's just consistent growth and just making sure again, that I'm putting out the best quality product that I can every single day. And my hope is over time, as I get more opportunity and more, resources to potentially put into this, is like we can make it so that it's a better visual experience, maybe some more graphics overlaid, maybe some music overlaid in the back end on certain situations, maybe some clips or highlights that play here or there. Again, if we can get, opportunities to do some stuff like that. So as time goes on, I would love a better produced product, I think is something I think would be really cool. I don't know that I'll get there. I don't know that that'll be in the next 5 years, 10 years, or that it ever gets there. Maybe it's starting next week. I have no idea, but it's always just incremental growth and trying to figure out what the next best thing is to do for the show and make it so that it's enjoyable for as many people as possible. Andy, what do you think was the biggest takeaway from the Packers-Bears game? The biggest negative takeaway was that they need to continue to really work on red zone offense. I mean, that and pass rush. Like those are the two negative takeaways that they have to really work on. Positive takeaways. I mean, a great game from Christian Watson's nice. Better decision-making from Jordan Love is nice. I think just seeing again what Josh Jacobs is capable of is awesome. The Jaire injury is very bad. That's a negative one. Stepping up and just showing that they have the ability to step up every once in a while is as well. So I think there's some positives and negatives on both sides of it. Lloyd's move to NFLI means 4 games have to go before he could return. That would mean the last 3 games of the regular season. Yeah, I don't expect much from Marshawn Lloyd this year. It's unfortunate. It sucks. But, even when he gets back, he basically missed the season, right? So you're talking about somebody that's not really in game shape, somebody that's going to take some time to get reacclimated with the offense, somebody that, is going to continue to have to work on blitz pickups and things like that. So yeah, I wouldn't expect much. It's going to probably be 2025 before we see anything significant from Marshawn Lloyd. Did you hear Half's comments today about 59? He said they'll play him eventually, but certainly sounds less than optimistic with where he's at. He puts a spin on everything, but didn't sound great. I did not hear that yet, but I didn't need to hear that to know that, because they haven't even come remotely close to playing him, right? Not even a snap, not even when Quay Walker was out for an entire game. Like it's pretty clear that they don't have a pathway for him on the field right now. So that does not surprise me at all. Trans Rights, good to see you, my friend. Craig Jensen, perhaps coming off a W, you start your content on the positive side and close out with negative observations. Coming off a L, start with a negative. Nope. No, I'm good. I'm going to tell you exactly what I saw in the game, regardless of win or loss. I'm going to tell you if there's good stuff that I saw. I'll tell you this, guys, all the time from a regular season standpoint, as long as they're continually in contention, I really don't care if it's a win or a loss all that much. What I'm watching for is progress and growth and how they actually played the game. And to me, that is the bigger thing that's going to tell you who they are long-term than the actual W or the L. And so, yeah, if they played awful, whether they got the win or loss, I'm going to start off by telling you what they did awful. And if they played amazing, regardless of whether or not it was a win or a loss, I'm going to start off by telling you what they did amazing. And to me, that is more impactful and more meaningful long-term and what you want to actually take out of the game than what the actual win-loss result is. And again, everyone views it a different way. I get that. But for me, for what I want to talk about, it has a lot less to do with where they're at right now. Where they're at right now is a 7-3 team that's okay. They're good to solid. They're not great. They're not near great. And I want to see them get to great. And if that's the case, they have to play better. It was a win. Great. They did not do a great job of earning that win against Chicago. They did not play great in that game. I think that's, to me, was the bigger takeaway. Now, we talked a lot this week, the second episode, right? Justice and I, the episode is titled there's still a lot of reasons for optimism coming out of that game. A huge, an episode that was dedicated almost primarily to the positives. I did a whole the radio show on, I think, Tuesday as well, of all the positives to take out of this game. So there's a time and a place for that, no question. And when you get to break down the tape throughout the course of the week, you have a better opportunity to go through, all right, here were all the really good things that happened in this game, and here were all the really negative things that happened in this game. But when you get to a gut reaction, I mean, you can get a feel for what type of game that it was. And that was not a promising performance from Green Bay on the whole. And that to me is the story. It's not that it's great that they got the win at the end. Kudos to them for continuing to fight. It's a very important win. Don't get me wrong. That win meant a lot for them. And man, would I love to learn those lessons on a win instead of a loss. But to me, the bigger story there was some of the things that did not go well in that game and some of the things that they still need to improve upon. And that needs to be, and I know it is, but that's the message that Matt LaFleur is telling to his team as well, is that they have a lot that they need to still clean up from that game. So that's the same thing that I'm going to lead off with. Or vice versa. If it was a good performance and they lost, we're going to talk about the good. And I don't really care that they lost. All right. Hey, Andy, what do you think was the biggest takeaway from the Packers? Oh, we went over that. I don't expect Jaire to play. That's a significant injury, especially to a DB that cuts so much. I mean, I hope he's back at some point. Yeah, Cooper DeJean was the one I was looking for. Quinyon Mitchell was earlier than Green Bay, right? I'm almost positive. He was a couple picks before Green Bay. They maybe could have found a way to move up for Quinyon Mitchell, and that would have been freaking amazing. But Quinyon Mitchell went at 22. They took Morgan at 25. Terrion Arnold went at 24, who's not had a great season, by the way. He's been fine. But and then Jordan Morgan went at 25. So I don't know that they would have, like, there was no deals to get up to 20, above 22, other than what Minnesota did, going from 23 to 17. And again, Green Bay was at 25, and there's no way they were doing that deal that Minnesota went up to get to 17. So there's probably not really an opportunity to get to Quinyon Mitchell territory. All right, we got a lot of questions left. I'm going to have to go to members only really quick. Ben, they were probably hoping that Stokes would bounce back and be good and Ja would be healthier moving forward. There were definitely things that they were banking on, right? Multiple things. One, I think they thought that Keyshawn could just be the slot corner full time. I think, and then number two, I think they really had three options, right? That Jaire would stay healthy, that Stokes would bounce back, and I think they were very high on Carrington Valentine. To me, there was just far too many question marks in that group on the whole. Jaire's constant injury history, Stokes coming back from the massive injuries, plus being really bad in year two, even before the injuries, and not showing well in the, coming back from injury last year. And then Keyshawn, despite him, potentially having the ability to be a full-time slot corner, he's had his ups and downs and is still, has his deficiencies at the position. And then, again, Jaire's constant injury history. So like, there's just too many question marks there on the whole. I think they definitely needed to attack that in a more aggressive way, and they just didn't do so. I get that, but Cooper DeJean wasn't really a fit for what Hafley wants to do. I mean, Cooper, if Jeff Hafley prides himself on being flexible, right? And I do agree, and we talked about it pre-draft. I don't think Cooper DeJean was actually a 1A fit overall, but at some point too, like, I guarantee you, there's zero doubt in my mind that Jeff Hafley could easily find a way to use Cooper DeJean. He will find a way to utilize him. I do think, again, there's some questions there overall heading into the draft. Was he the perfect fit? And I didn't think Green Bay was going to draft him, and they didn't. But every defensive coordinator in this league could find a way to use Cooper DeJean in some capacity. Who was the player that responded to the article, Juicy? I'll pass on that for now. Maybe someday. He's no longer in the league. I'll say that. And I will also say that advice that I gave to him, or that I just said, he should have taken. He should have been listening to his coaches more, by the way, not getting in my DMs and thanking me. Also, the same play, I should say this, the same player that was giving me praise when I graded him with a very slightly negative grade, like a few weeks later, he blocked me on social media altogether. So yeah, that player did not work out in the league, to say the least. And I was not super surprised by it based on some of the interactions. Got to take it all with a grain of salt. Plenty of people that blast others for not knowing football show that they don't know it themselves. I think there's levels to it, but yeah. Andy, I loved your video with the Niners content creator. Do you think you'll be doing more videos like this with other opponents, content creators in the future? That was one that they came to me with, and said that they wanted to do that and that we could post it. Gave me the link to post it on my channel as well. So I did. So if ever there's a content creator for another team that wants to reach out and do something like that, I'd be more than happy to do so. And usually those are pretty fun to do. God, that was a scary 30 seconds when Jay thought Ja tore his ACL. Yeah, but again, PCL can be very, very much of a major issue as well. Wait a minute. Nestle Crunch is my favorite. What is the other Nestle Crunch? Bunch of Crunch, my friend. Nestle. If you like Nestle Crunch, man, your mind is about to be blown Bunch of crunch is where it's at, my friend. Go get some bunch of crunch right now. Don't leave the chat. Go. What are you waiting for? Go get some bunch of crunch, Ben. Get out of here. It's amazing. Agree, except when it comes to king size Kit Kats, those are I do feel like the king size Kit Kats are more proportionally accurate. I will agree with you there, Ben. I'm not a huge Kit Kat guy, but I do feel like the king size Kit Kats are pretty proportionally accurate compared to the other ones. Yes, see, Kit Kat scales perfectly. I'm mostly in agreement with that. And no, I'm not cray cray. I'm 1,000,000% right on this. We're going off track. The real talk is burger versus brat and fried pickles versus curds. I want to find a new joint for fried pickles in Chicago. Here's the fried pickles one. Fried pickle chips, awesome. Fried pickle spears, it's not the right. There's another thing that's not the right ratio. There's too much pickle to breading. It's not the right pickle to breading ratio. You need the chips when it comes to fried pickles. But fried pickle chips, awesome. Cheese curds, awesome. Burger over brat every single time. I also think that there's sometimes with a burger proportion thing where like a regular burger, once you get to like double, triple patties, again, we're off on the consistency of the burger to bun ratio. So I don't like that either. It's got to be the right ratio. Big ratio guy. Andy about to make a spiritual successor to supersize me called king size. No, we're not king sizing anything. I don't know why you need to discriminate. Each of those options are great. I don't know which one we're talking. Oh, burger or brat, maybe. Now we're talking about who has the best burger or brat, best fried pickles or cheese curds. Now you're talking. There we go. For those ideas, Five Guys, Culver's for burgers, and then Texas Roadhouse for fried pickles. I don't know if I've ever had fried pickles from Texas Roadhouse. With the quality of work, you do an excellent job, Andy. Not sure anyone would criticize that. Maybe Bear Signs. Oh, trust me, there's always somebody. There's always somebody. Saw growth from Jordan. That was very good. I agree. Most hated Minnesotan gifting 10 pack-a-day memberships. Appreciate that a ton. 2 home games in a 5-day stretch. A split wouldn't be fatal, but get both and playoff chances go way up. I mean, just a win against San Francisco gets them to like a 94% chance. Let's see what both does. If they get both of these wins, it's not what I wanted. All right. So win against the 49ers and a win against the Dolphins. And the New York Times predictor puts them at a 98% chance to make the playoffs. 98% chance. So 2-0 in the next 2 weeks, and they're all but in. And even if they lost the remainder of their games, they'd have a 26% chance. So the hope is obviously you don't lose the remainder of them. Even one more win against, let's say, the Saints, just one more win against the Saints with 2 wins, you have an 80% chance, or a win against the Bears at the end, 82% chance of getting in, 81% chance. So these 2 wins and like one more win on the season basically gets you in, is what you're kind of looking at. You've never seen a fried pickle spear? They're not anywhere near as good. If I order fried pickles and the spear comes out, I just immediately am like, oh God, the pickles, the chips are way better. While good, too many fried pickles from a Texas Roadhouse platter will make you sick. Guarantee that. They're winning both because I cheer loud. Yes, enjoy the games. Most hated Minnesota, and we're going to need you there. You should do a video of how you think the offseason would look if the season ended today. First round of the draft, free agent moves, maybe a trade. I didn't do it in full detail of that, but I did do a full offseason one during the bye week of everything to look at where Green Bay is going to go, or like what decisions they're going to have to make in the offseason. I didn't do potential free agents or draft picks or things like that, but everything else is in there. In fact, I probably chose the wrong time to do it because I put a lot of time into it and looking at everything. And it honestly, like, I'm not tooting my horn here. I think it was like a really well done episode, and it just, because it was on a Saturday during the bye week, I don't think it got much viewership, but go back and check that one out. There's a lot of really good stuff in there. All right, friends. That's going to do it for me today. I do have to get my son to basketball practice, so I will see you guys all very soon. Don't still know if I'm going to be doing the pregame show on Sunday yet. I'm still working through some logistics on that, but we'll be back sooner rather than later. Tomorrow's episode with Carmen Vitale will be up later today, so keep an eye out for that. Really fun conversation with her this week, so make sure to check that out. You're the absolute best. Thank you for all the super chats and the gifted memberships. Thank you for everyone that attended. Hopefully some of you guys I know got some free memberships today, so that's absolutely amazing. And again, thank you to Most Hated Minnesotan and Izzy Roberts for gifting those memberships today. I'll see you guys all very soon. Have a very fun and happy rest of your day. And until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.